Lena Williams had always been a woman of strong convictions, known for her grace, intelligence, and warm heart. She was a woman others admired, someone who had it all, a fulfilling career, a beautiful home, and a loving family. But behind closed doors, Lena's world had come crashing down, shattered by one moment of betrayal that she could never forget. Her husband Daniel had been the love of her life. They had been together for over 10 years, building a life full of dreams, laughter, and promises. Lena had always trusted him completely. But all of that changed the day she discovered Daniel's infidelity. It wasn't the suddenness of the betrayal that hurt her so deeply. It was the deceit, the lies he told, the way he had gone behind her back for months, and the realization that everything they had built together was based on a lie. Daniel had been having an affair with a younger woman, someone Lena didn't even know. And when Lena found out, her world shattered. The confrontation was brutal. Daniel had apologized profusely, begging for her forgiveness, promising it would never happen again. But Lena could see the truth in his eyes, the emptiness, the guilt, the shame. It was the end of their love, and she knew it. She could never forgive him, never. Her friends were divided when they learned of the betrayal. Some urged her to give him a second chance, to heal their broken marriage, but others were more understanding. You deserve better, Lena, they said. No one should ever betray you like that. Let him go. But for Lena, the choice had been clear. She couldn't and wouldn't forgive him. The pain was too deep, the betrayal too raw. For weeks, she lived in a house that once felt like home but now felt like a prison. Her marriage had become a cold, empty shell of what it once was. Months passed, and Lena's friends continued to offer their opinions, but they all noticed the change in her. She had become distant, disconnected, her once bright spirit dimmed by the weight of the anger and bitterness she refused to let go of. You need to move on, Lena, her friend Sarah told her one evening over wine. I know it's hard, but holding on to this anger isn't going to make you happy. Forgiving him doesn't mean forgetting, it just means letting go of all this pain. Lena had just stared at her, the glass of wine untouched in front of her. She had heard these words a dozen times, but forgiveness seemed impossible. How could she forgive someone who had torn apart the very fabric of her trust? Someone who had made her feel worthless, unlovable. But what if he doesn't change? Lena had asked, her voice trembling. What if forgiving him means I'm just setting myself up for more pain? Sarah had sighed, looking at Lena with sympathy. You're not setting yourself up for anything. You're freeing yourself. Forgiving him is about giving yourself peace. But I can't make you do it, Lena. Only you can. Lena had been silent. In her heart, the anger was a fire that she refused to put out. She didn't want peace. She wanted justice. She wanted Daniel to feel the weight of his betrayal, just as she had. As weeks turned into months, Lena's decision to hold on to her unforgiveness began to take a toll on her. Her marriage remained broken, and the constant bitterness started to spill over into other parts of her life. She became irritable, impatient with her children, short with her colleagues. Her friends who had once been her support system began to drift away. They grew tired of hearing the same story over and over, tired of Lena's refusal to move on. They were sympathetic at first, but as time wore on, their patience wore thin. Why do you keep punishing yourself, Lena? Sarah asked one evening, her voice tinged with frustration. You're letting this destroy you, and you're not even giving yourself a chance to heal. Lena's eyes burned with unshed tears. You don't understand, Sarah. He ruined everything. You don't know what it's like to trust someone with all your heart, only to have them crush you. But Sarah, along with the others, began to pull away. They had been there for her when it first happened, but as Lena refused to let go of her anger, they began to retreat. They stopped reaching out. They stopped offering their advice. Slowly, Lena found herself alone in the marriage she had once cherished. Then one day, something happened that Lena hadn't expected. After months of silence and tension between her and Daniel, he came to her with a letter, one that he had written to her after the affair ended. It was a letter filled with raw honesty, vulnerability, and the deepest remorse. I've made a terrible mistake, Lena. I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I have to tell you this. You are the love of my life. I've ruined everything and I am so sorry. I'm not asking for your forgiveness. I'm asking for you to let go of the anger. I can't change the past, but I can change how I live from here on. Please don't let my mistake destroy the rest of our lives. Lena read the letter over and over again, the words echoing in her mind. Please don't let my mistake destroy the rest of our lives. She sat there numb. The anger that had sustained her for so long felt like an old, tattered coat she had long since outgrown. She felt empty, exhausted, and strangely hollow. The fire of anger that had burned so brightly now felt like nothing more than a pile of ash. But as the days passed, Lena couldn't escape the loneliness. The silence in their home grew louder. She realized that the pain of holding on to unforgiveness was greater than any pain she had felt in the wake of his betrayal, and yet she wasn't ready to forgive. Her friends, the ones who had once told her to let go of the anger, had moved on with their lives. They were happy, rebuilding their own worlds, and Lena felt more and more isolated. She had clung to the belief that holding on to her anger made her strong, but in the end, it was only making her weaker. The friends who had been there for her had turned away, and now she was left to deal with the consequences of her own refusal to forgive. One evening, as Lena sat alone in their living room, staring at the quiet emptiness around her, she felt a shift deep within her. It wasn't a sudden moment of clarity, but rather a slow, painful realization that her unforgiveness had cost her more than she could bear. It had cost her her happiness, her peace, and perhaps even her chance at a future with Daniel. Her marriage was in ruins, her friends had drifted away, and she was alone in the house that was once filled with love and laughter. Lena closed her eyes and whispered to herself, I don't know how to forgive him, but I know I can't keep doing this. I can't keep punishing myself or him any longer. It was the first step. The first crack in the wall of anger she had built around herself. It took time. Forgiveness was not a simple decision, nor was it an easy one. But Lena eventually found the strength to release the anger that had consumed her for so long. It didn't mean that everything would magically heal overnight. It didn't erase the pain. But in forgiving Daniel, Lena realized that she had also forgiven herself for the years spent trapped in bitterness, for the friendships lost, and for the peace that had been stolen from her. The cost of unforgiveness had been steep. It had cost her more than just her marriage. It had cost her joy, love, and the very essence of who she was. But in the end, forgiveness was the only path forward. And Lena would spend the rest of her life learning to walk that path. Slowly, carefully, but with an open heart. The months that followed Daniel's affair were the hardest Lena had ever faced. Her world had been shattered, her trust betrayed in the most painful way imaginable. She spent countless sleepless nights replaying the moments of their once happy marriage, those shared smiles, the inside jokes, the quiet evenings spent together, wondering how it all unraveled so quickly. The betrayal had cut deeper than she ever thought possible. And yet it wasn't just the affair that tore at her. It was the emotional distance that followed, the isolation she felt even within her own home. Daniel's apology, though sincere, couldn't erase the hurt. His desperate attempts to rebuild trust only seemed to emphasize how far gone their connection had become. For months, Lena oscillated between anger and numbness. Every conversation felt like a battle, every moment spent in his presence, a reminder of the pain she was holding on to. But deep down, Lena knew the truth. She couldn't live like this forever. The anger was consuming her, poisoning every part of her life. She saw the effects it had on her work, her relationships with friends, even her children. What kind of example was she setting by holding on to this bitterness? It was one evening in the quiet of her bedroom that Lena made the decision. It wasn't dramatic or sudden. It wasn't a moment of pure clarity where everything clicked into place. It was simply the realization that living in the past was holding her hostage. She couldn't change what Daniel had done. She couldn't undo the pain, but she could choose to stop letting it control her. Forgiveness wasn't for Daniel. It was for her own peace, her own healing. The first step was the hardest. Daniel, seeing the distance between them, had begun to change. He was patient, humble, and tried in every way to make amends, but Lena had remained distant, unyielding in her pain. He respected her space, but every day his remorse weighed heavier on him. He loved her deeply, and watching the woman he had once shared everything with slowly retreat into herself was agony. He didn't know how to fix things, but he knew one thing: he needed to be there for her, no matter how long it took. One evening, after weeks of strained silence, Lena sat across from Daniel in their living room, their eyes meeting for the first time in what felt like forever. The air between them was thick, but something had shifted. Lena took a deep breath, her voice soft but steady. I've been angry for a long time, Daniel, and I've let that anger consume me, destroy me. It's hurting me more than it's hurting you, and I can't keep doing this. I don't want to live in this pain anymore, but forgiveness, it feels impossible. Daniel's heart clenched as he listened to her, the words of self-awareness and sorrow coming from her lips. I don't deserve it, Lena. I'll never deserve it. But I need you to know that I will spend the rest of my life proving to you that I love you, that I am sorry. And I will wait, no matter how long it takes. Lena sat in silence for a long time, wrestling with the flood of emotions coursing through her. Forgiveness wasn't easy. It wasn't just about saying the words, it was about truly letting go of the hurt and the betrayal. It meant trusting again. And that felt terrifying. But something inside of her, something deep beyond the anger, whispered that forgiveness didn't mean forgetting. It didn't mean excusing what Daniel had done. It meant breaking free from the chains of resentment that had kept her from moving forward. It meant healing. Lena reached across the table, taking Daniel's hand in hers, her voice barely above a whisper. I forgive you, Daniel, but I can't do it for you. I'm doing it for me. I need to heal. And I need you to be here with me for the long road ahead. Tears filled Daniel's eyes as he squeezed her hand. Thank you, Lena. I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I will spend my life earning it. I love you. I always have. And in that moment, something in their marriage began to shift. Slowly but surely, the wounds began to heal. Lena wasn't expecting instant change, but the weight she had carried for so long began to lift. There were still moments of doubt, times when the past crept in like an unwelcome shadow, but they learned to navigate them together. Their communication grew stronger, their connection deeper. As weeks turned into months, Daniel and Lena began to rediscover the bond they had once shared. They made a conscious effort to rebuild their marriage, not by forgetting the past, but by learning from it. They went on long walks, took vacations together, and even started to attend therapy. But more than anything, they learned to be vulnerable with one another in ways they never had before. For Lena, forgiveness had opened the door to a new kind of love, one that was built on transparency, trust, and mutual respect. Daniel's commitment to change was evident in everything he did, and it gave Lena the courage to let go of the past. Their home began to feel alive again, filled with laughter and warmth. It was a slow process, but with each passing day, their love became more resilient. They were no longer defined by the betrayal, but by their ability to overcome it together. A year later, their friends who had once given up on their marriage could hardly recognize the couple they had become. Sarah, who had been one of the first to encourage Lena to move on, now watched in awe as she saw how Daniel and Lena's relationship had evolved. Lena's smile had returned, more radiant than ever. There was a lightness in her step, a joy in her eyes that had been absent for so long. One evening, they all gathered for dinner at Lena and Daniel's house. As they sat around the table, surrounded by warmth and laughter, Sarah couldn't help but notice the transformation. Lena and Daniel were more connected than ever, touching each other's arms, sharing private jokes, their bond unmistakable. I never thought I'd see this, Sarah whispered to their friend Rachel, her voice filled with admiration. They've completely turned things around. I didn't think they could make it. Rachel nodded, her eyes following Lena and Daniel as they shared a quiet moment. It's incredible. It's like they've rebuilt everything from the ground up. Lena caught her gaze from across the room, and as their eyes met, she smiled, a smile that told the whole story. It was a smile of healing, of forgiveness, and of a love that had been reborn stronger than ever. Daniel walked over to her, took her hand, and whispered, I'm so glad I didn't lose you, Lena. You've made me the man I always wanted to be. And Lena, her heart full, leaned in and kissed him softly, the past finally behind them, their future shining brighter than ever. Their home had become the place everyone envied, not for its material wealth, but for the love, strength, and unwavering commitment that had been forged in the fire of adversity.